Okay, so I just finished Clone Wars Season 6, right? Let me double check. I got my little cheat sheet here. Yes, Season 6. Um, I know the background for, the very basic background about this, where they thought Season 5 might be the end, and then they got this last season, which looked more like it probably was going to be like this was going to be it, and then years later they did one more on Disney Plus, and so I guess there's kind of a lot of angles to look at this from. I'll say this: I did not watch it like. One of the things I like about this show is that you can't always tell when a season finale is. You can't always tell, well, did they know this was going to be the last one or not? They kind of just flow very naturally, and it's not something you can necessarily watch them out of order, but I wouldn't always know, oh, this was the beginning of this season, or this was the end of this other season, except maybe a little bit with this one and the last one. The last one with, spoilers are pretty silly at this point, but because you know what happens in the last season if you're watching this one. But with Ahsoka leaving, that felt like, whoa, that could end. And then this one also has an ending that's like, yeah, that's good. Like that leaves some good, kind of hopeful philosophy there a little bit. Definitely a lot of, sort of a Taoistic way of looking at it. Also kind of a yin-yang way, as like a lot of Star Wars does. This was not... This has some great moments in it. It's not one of my favorite seasons, which is funny because they do, especially with, it starts off great, it ends great. Everything in the middle I'm kind of meh about, which maybe it's because it's, was it like 10 episodes, 12 episodes, something like that, so they cut them in half. So because of that, there's a part of me that's like, oh man, they should really make it count more. They should really, really be packing in as much as they can. And there's a part of me that does and doesn't respect that. First of all, like, I'm shocked, and I actually mean in a good way, even though I like this character. I was really surprised Ahsoka was not in this season. Well, okay, she has like one or two lines in a, this illusion, kind of this possible future or whatever. But, she's not really there. So the fact that they have her leave, and this was possibly the last season, it sounds like it was for a long time, and they still didn't have her return, man, that took balls. That was like, because that's like a popular character. It's one of the main characters, and to not have her come back, really come back, was really quite something. It was kind of a daring, risky move, so I really give him props for that. Again, I guess I'll go through the character, or the story arcs, I should say. Love how this starts. The whole idea of a droid that's malfunctioning, although maybe I have to go back and see it, but I would love it if somebody, like one of the clones was named like 66, and they're just like, that's an order 66, or or execute order 66 or something like that would like send him off. I thought that'd be really funny. But no, just something sets him off, and he goes and he kills a Jedi, and this automatically gets the Emperor and Dooku thinking like, what, that wasn't supposed to happen. So there's a lot of insight into that. They tried to get the clone, and then this other clone, it's Fives, right? That's the one that's on the run. He knows too much, and he starts going on the run, and it's this really suspenseful, really tragic, sad story, because again, I don't think this is a spoiler. You know what has to happen to him. He's not gonna make it out of this. And so watching this dude just slowly lose his mind while convincing himself, he's holding on to his mind, which he is. He's trying to get to the truth of this, but everyone's telling him he's nuts, and, you're an enemy, you're a traitor, and stuff like that. And just watching him slowly just get more and more paranoid and try to stay on the run and everything, and then you see how it all ends. It's just this really bittersweet, sad ending. It's one of those things where I'm like, man, the clones are weirdly such good characters. So that was really like, wow, man, what a Manchurian Candidate movie we had there. That was really something. I really like that. And then we go to was it Clovis with the banks and Anakin getting jealous and Padme and stuff, and it's fine. It's one of those where I don't like jealous stories, or let me put it this way. If you're gonna do it in such an obvious way where someone walks in while somebody's trying to kiss the other, but the other isn't interested or misinterprets something, that drives me nuts. Thankfully, they don't do too much of that. So I didn't feel as bad. But at the same time, I think they're trying to build up that rift between Padme and Anakin without, like, spelling out everything. So it does show, yeah, there's some stuff going on here. I also don't... I forget the name of this planet, but it's these aliens that have these stretched faces and like these weird voices that it sounds like they're doing some kind of accent, but you can't figure out. Like it's an imitation of someone, like a mean imitation of someone, but you don't know who it is. And I don't like them. I don't like the way they're designed. I think their planet is boring. I think the voices are, not nice to hear. Nothing about them interests me. So that whole part I didn't get super into, but it was fine. And then they fucking bring Jar Jar in what they thought was this last season, man. They dedicate like 3 or 4 episodes. Are you out of your goddamn mind? And then you bring in like, the witch sister, mother, whatever the fuck they were called. Like, she's there. She's in a story with Jar Jar. Are you shitting me? I'm sorry, I can't. That's the one thing they couldn't fix. It's almost like they're purposefully trying to make him worse. But yeah, all of that I didn't get into. It's not the worst of these Jar Jar stories, but I still couldn't find myself getting that into it. It was cool seeing... why am I forgetting? The Night Sisters, I'm sorry. Like the Queen of the Night Sisters, because she kind of vanished, but then like... They're making it look like she's gone? Like Jar Jar killed her? Again, are you shitting me? So all of that, I just couldn't get into. There's been far worse with him, but that was not for me. And then it ends on a real good note, like a really fascinating note following Yoda. Actually, I'm finding a lot of like the best episodes are around Yoda. And, if this was the last season, it'd be kind of cool because the first episode is centered around Yoda and then the last episode would be centered around Yoda. So I would like that. They dive more into the idea of communicating with Jedi after death and having consciousness after death. And he has to travel in what really feels like kind of like this Avatar Last Airbender descent, And even then they take him to Dagobah. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, why do I want to be here? We're going to see this later. But they explain stuff that I didn't think I wanted explained. But they really talked about it in just enough detail and just enough vagueness. Like what that spot is, where you sort of enter into those few trees and you see, as they put it, whatever fear you bring with you. I love that, but it still doesn't say exactly what it is, but they say that the planet is very, very pure. It's very pure with the Force. There's a lot of it there, which, again, I like that. Sort of like appearances can be deceiving. So I really, really enjoy that, and the journey he goes on is really wonderful, and I like the note it ends on as well, where, again, it's not... I mean, this whole show has the idea, like, everything's gonna go to shit. Everything's going to be destroyed, pretty much, which, I mean, we know the prequels, we know what's gonna happen, and there is, this real tragedy to it, and I think the final lines that he has there, the idea of, everything seems to be about this war, but there are things that are bigger than that, that are grander and will last forever and are more important and stuff like that. I mean, it's not necessarily... just forget war's lame, it's not necessarily that, wars do have it, they're awful, as this show shows too, but, there are things beyond that, there are things past that can live forever, and even beyond death. And I really, really enjoyed that, and I thought that was an interesting note to leave on. It's so fascinating how much this show really dives into the ideas of war, the philosophies of war and battle and strategy and loss and gain and stuff. I mean, stuff that it even goes into, as we found with this, the finances of the war, which, again, for a few minutes was a little interesting. Then I started to get bored with it, but I thought that was really interesting. There's another fascinating scene. So there's a couple scenes in the prequels where this is the obvious dread moment where this is the first intergalactic empire! Yay! The music, ba-boom! And Padme sings, "This is how democracy ends with thunderous applause, ba-boom!" You know, these big threatening lines. For whatever reason, the line "Long live the Banks" and everybody cheering and the music going, ba-boom! Sort of, there was something almost chilling about it, because I don't have anything, I'm not pro or anti-bank or anything, it's like any other tool, I guess, but just something about them saying that and chanting it and the confused looks on the heroes' faces and the music, I'm just like, huh, hey, like, I didn't know how to feel about it, and I like a show that gets that across, or this uneasiness without necessarily knowing why. I mean, you do hear, stuff about banks are in the news all the time and stuff like that, or they definitely were, a while ago. But yeah, it's something about that felt adequately unnerving, and it's hard for me to say exactly why. So I like a series that can do that, where it's hard for me to even put into words why it works. So I did like this season. It's a good season. I'm not at all gonna say it's a bad season, or there's not even really anything terrible in this. Like I said, even the Jar Jar episodes aren't the worst, but but it is strange that this was the last one for a while. Like I said, we get the Disney Plus ones, and I didn't know what to make of that. Like, I don't know what the fallout from this was. I'm assuming it was still good, because everyone, usually when a show is really good and it has a bad ending, people will tell you, you gotta see this show, just know the ending sucks. And nobody has said that about this one. And I definitely don't think it does suck at all. It's like I say, it's still very well put together. I think it's the length. I think the fact that it's only 11, 12 episodes, I think that's kind of what threw me off a little bit. But I did still really enjoy it. I am looking forward to the other ones coming up. Oh, and I know, because people are going to ask what I think of Tim Curry as the Emperor. He's good. I do like him as the Emperor. That's a good replacement. The only issue I have, it's so easy to buy him as evil, and he's got it down. I mean, there's times where I'm like, man, that really sounds like the original actor so well. It's hard for me to buy him as, the nice Palpatine. Oh, we'll have to look into this, where everyone else that's played him in the past could pull that off. They could pull off the really creepy, menacing voice, but they could also pull off, I'm just like a granny, I'm trying to do what I can, but I know what's going on. I just want to help people, and that's a little like this, and they really, really work. Tim Curry's voice just naturally sounds a little too evil. and that's not to say he doesn't have a wonderful voice. He does. I love his voice, and it can be a very lovely sounding voice. But when he's playing a role like this, someone is a bad guy, and he's supposed to kind of trick everybody too, it didn't win me over as much as the other actors. But when he did have to go evil, when he did have to put the cloak on and everything, I mean, he was menacing. Maybe even, do I say more than the others? I don't know. I'd have to hear him back to back, but I thought he was very effective. So, yes, I do still really like this season. It's just so interesting knowing this is how it was going to end. Like, these were the stories they were going to end on. Because they're not super surprising, but you think they would have gone even a little bigger. And there's definitely kind of there's more doom in this one than I would have thought. There's a little bit more doom and gloom, but with just that hint of hope, a new hope, which I guess is always the idea. But yeah, I don't know. What did you guys think? Because I actually don't know what the response was to this season. I'm assuming positive, because again, you don't hear people saying, oh, but it ended on a bad note. But did you like that it was shorter, that it was half the amount of episodes? Did you like that there was a Jar Jar story in there? And that they're talking about, the banks and stuff like that. Is that what you wanted to see in the last season? Because I'm kind of up in the air. I still think it's good, and that is part of what I liked about the show, is that you couldn't always tell if this was going to be the last season or not, or if this, you couldn't always have an episode and be like, that's the first episode of the season, that's the last episode of the season. So I like that. And this season felt very much on board with that until the very end, where again, like the season 5, they're making it look like this could be it. You know, they didn't even have the big, you know, bump 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 credit music at the end. You know what it is? I think I would have felt even more satisfactory leaving off of the previous season, even though I do like this season. There would have been a little bit more of like a, whew, you know, like just you take a breath after all of that. Where with this one, there's a lot of fascinating stuff that I'm glad I know, especially in the beginning and the end, where I'm just like, man, those were so great. But I could see them as like their own mini films, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily part of a show. So if that makes sense, and again, I think it's because it was fewer episodes. I think that's what's throwing me off. So just to make it clear, still really like the season. I don't think it's one of my favorites, but it has some of my favorite moments, particularly in the beginning and the end, with the clone on the run, and then Yoda traveling and discovering all this stuff about life after death and so much more. So what did you all think? I know this is like years old now, you know, since this came out, but thinking back on this season, what do you think of it now? And what did you think of it when it came out? Were you satisfied? Did you want more? Were you pissed off? Did you want like a ton more? Or did you feel this was like perfect way to end it at the time? And also, what do you think about there being new episodes too? I haven't seen the new episodes yet, but I will get around to that next. I think it's the same amount, right? Isn't it like 12 episodes, something like that? So probably won't be too long till we get to that. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Take care.